So there I was, in a situation I seem to find myself in about every week. It's not one I enjoy or want to be in, I just can't seem to avoid it. I was in yet another online political argument. The topic and subject matter are unimportant today. What you need to know is that for someone who's been debating for 5 years, I did spectacularly. Awful. So spurred by this and my persuasive ballots, I decided that to become a more effective communicator, I would have to set forth on a journey through ancient works of philosophy, academic papers, and more hours of YouTube than I care to admit. I will now take you along, tracing my steps to learn the arts of persuasion. My name is Jonathan Grassmyer, and I will be your guide. Today, we'll be boarding the Persuasion Express, bound for 3 stations: ethos, pathos, and logos, the 3 tools of the art of persuasion. Along the way, we'll learn where they came from, why they are important, and how to use them. So let's jump right into it. All information today came from Aristotle's Rhetoric. As you all find your seats and the conductor checks your tickets, let's talk about where the art of persuasion originated. It was invented by a Greek gentleman who lived a very long time ago. As a matter of fact, so long ago we only have statues of the guy. His name was Aristotle, a philosopher, orator, and much more, an all-around intellectual. He developed and expressed the art of persuasion in his work Rhetoric, which was written beginning in 367 BC. I wasn't lying when I said a long time ago. To sum up the main point of his work, Aristotle states that a person who is going to persuade must be able to use 3 tools: character, emotion, and logical thinking. Let's pause for a moment to say what we should be using these tools for. The ancient Greeks, such as Plato and Aristotle, constantly emphasized the fact that there is a great difference between a fight and an argument. For in a fight, you attempt to beat down your opponent, whereas in an argument, you seek to win over your opponent, the audience, etc. This is why we should learn the art of persuasion instead of blindly fighting our opponent. We must learn to become winsome and to craft winsome arguments. Effective communication requires the ability to utilize these tools, and what those tools are is what we'll be getting into next. So buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, as our journey begins with Station 1. I find your lack of credibility disturbing. In the organization that I'm in for school, all throughout high school, we have the opportunity to debate. And as an older student, I now get the privilege of judging younger students' debates. There is one student who is determined that I am biased against them, because I have never given them the ballot. Now, I am not biased against them as a person at all, but I am biased against their lack of ethos. Before we can continue this example, you need to know what ethos is. Ethos is a Greek word, which is roughly translated to mean ethics, credibility, and trust. Ethos means having credibility as a speaker. It means gaining the audience's trust. The reason why ethos comes first is it is what everything else builds off of. Having ethos ensures you will be better situated to persuade. This means being well-mannered and cordial, not using biting sarcasm or witty comebacks meant to beat down your opponent. It means maintaining professionalism while using appropriate humor to put the audience at ease. Even my wearing of this suit today is part of building ethos. The problem that I faced, going back to my example now, is that that student was arrogant. They talked down to their opponent, they were not cordial, and they broke down their ethos. When we break down our ethos, our audience is sure to tune us out, and our opponent is sure to find our lack of credibility disturbing. A simple way of remembering to build ethos in day-to-day life is remembering to be confident and still polite. It's easy to let an argument get heated, but maintaining ethos is vital. Even something as small as a smile can build ethos. But is it enough to have credibility? Well, don't worry, there's more. As you can see out the windows to your left, the town of Pathos, and our second stop. Station 2, toying with your emotions. Humans have this dirty little habit. It's messy, it gets everywhere, it makes everything complicated. Everywhere you go, there's always emotion. Humans were created by God to be emotional beings, and if you've raised or been a teenager, you already know that all too well. And that's why we need pathos, or an appeal to humanity's emotions. Pathos is once again a Greek word, which is translated to mean pathetic. Now, I don't mean my first year impromptu rounds. I mean pathetic like when you see a stray kitten or a hurt child. Pathos tugs on your heartstrings. Think with me for a moment. What is the first birthday party that you can remember? Most likely that memory is tied to a strong emotion, hopefully a positive one. Emotions are powerful. Human beings aren't machines. You can't simply input facts and have them reach the correct results. Instead of rattling off numbers and stats, build for them ideas, concepts, and emotions that they can grasp. Pathos means toying with the emotions, but in a minimal and positive way. Pathos ensures that the audience cares about what you have to say. But what do you have to say? Well, as you will observe out the right side of the coach, we are entering the land of logos, and our third and final stop, Station 3. The facts only slightly care about your feelings. The French philosopher Jean de La Bruyere once said, quote, "Logic is the method by which you add conviction to truth." To persuade, we must be able to back up our emotional appeal and credibility with something. We need proof. Pathos is a temporarily effective means of persuading, but once the emotional high wears off, there will be a large gap in your argument, a gap of long-lasting conviction. Logos supplies this conviction. Logos directly means logic or reasoning. Logos means having well-researched, well-rounded, logical arguments, not using logical fallacies. The reason why logos comes last is because it is the final piece of the puzzle. Once you've reeled them in with your credibility and emotional appeal, then you can hit them with the cold hard facts. Once you've made people care, then you can tell them the truth. Logos is the proof of your argument. The audience trusts you, and you must validate that trust. Logos is the validation of that trust and vital to round out a persuasive argument. Unfortunately, with that, I'm going to have to round out our trip today. I've greatly enjoyed being your guide, and as we pull back into Grand Central Station, let's recap what we've learned today. Ethos, pathos, and logos are the art of persuasion. And to persuade, we must be able to use character, emotion, and logical thinking. Before we close today, I want to take a small amount of time and warn you. The art of persuasion is a powerful tool, and we must learn to use it responsibly. For in the wrong hands, it can harm just as much as it can help. Throughout history, men such as Hitler, Stalin, Lenin, Marx, and Mao have risen up and used persuasion to wreak havoc and take innocent lives. This is why we should learn it. We must be ready to stand up for what we believe. Logos, pathos, and ethos aren't just tools to be used in speech and debate rounds. They are tools that will allow us to stand for the truth. It's not all bleak, because within each and every one of us, me and you, lies the potential to dramatically change our world, to protect the innocent, to obey the call of God, to be the voice for the voiceless. In this world, there are evil people who wish to destroy, but there are also those like Winston Churchill, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., those willing to stand and persuade. When we learn the art of persuasion, we can be prepared for what is to come, to stand with those great orators and persuaders, knowing that we are ready to use these tools and to recognize when they are used against us and against the truth. So I hope you've learned something about persuasion today, and I hope that you will keep thinking about it long after my speech is done. So thank you for choosing Persuasion Express. Please remember to leave a good review. And with that, our tour is done.